So these are some tool sets that come with ready-to-run RC cars. And if you use these to wrench on your machine, it might drive you insane. How's it going, everybody? Here we are, episode number 16 of our Get Into RC video series, and today it's going to be all about tools. Essential tools that you'll need when you get into this RC hobby. So I just showed you some of these tools that may come with your ready-to-run kit or your full build-up kit. These are basic tools just to kind of get you going. And if you're just going to, enjoy your RC car, maybe, once or twice a month, this may be all that you need to wrench on your cars. But if you think you're going to be a little bit more involved, I'm going to let you know what you should have on hand. And I'm going to give you a few tips if you think you're really going to be involved in this hobby, what tools you should probably look at. All right, so these are just the basics here. These are just hand tools. There's some other accessories that you might need down the road, like thread lock or oils, talking about chargers, maybe a charging lipo sack or something like that. I'll get into that at another time, but here right now we're just going to talk about hand tools that will help you repair your car, maintain your car, and I have a lot of stuff to go over, so let's get into this. So I'm going to start over here with the sharp stuff that maybe some of you shouldn't have. Just kidding. All right, let me start with a hobby knife. It's a handy tool to have in your toolbox for a number of reasons. Sometimes you need to cut the flashing off of some plastic. Perhaps you need to trim the body a little bit. Perhaps you need to cut out some decals, or perhaps you're even painting your own body for your kit. You'll need this to cut the window mask and so on. So there is a variety of uses, even to dig dirt out of the bottom of screws on the bottom of your chassis if you need to work on your car. This will help pick out any dirt. So grab yourself an X-Acto knife or a hobby knife, a couple extra blades, have that in your tool set. So the next thing you should have is a reamer, and this is another handy tool with a couple different uses for it. So a reamer is basically a cone-shaped blade. This particular one, it has two blades on it. And as you can see, it's this particular one is stepped as well, but they have smooth tapered reamers, and basically it makes a hole. So you could use it to make holes in bodies, and in a pinch, if you need to make a hole in a plastic part, it could work there as well. But mainly it's used for making holes in the bodies, and you need that obviously if you're building your kit. You have to make a hole for the body post. Just a very good tool to have on hand. And as you'd expect, scissors is a must in the RC hobby. They have a lot of uses, from cutting servo tape to cutting zip ties, cutting bodies. Lexan scissors are a must for cutting bodies. You can't just go into your desk drawer and use a straight pair of scissors to cut open a body. You really need Lexan scissors. So just go ahead and find a good pair. This particular set has a small straight blade Lexan scissor and then a curved Lexan scissor for cutting wheel arches and stuff like that. And again, you cut servo tape and decals. So many things you could do with a good pair of Lexan scissors. Okay, next up is some tools that you may already have on hand, and they're not particularly a tool. These three tools here are not particularly tools that you have to buy from a hobby store. These sharp tools that I mentioned, most likely you're gonna have to find them in a hobby store. These are basic tools that, again, you could probably find anywhere. And I got these, I think these were from the local home center. It was probably like $7 for all three of these. Basically, it's a long-nosed pair of pliers, a pair of water pump pliers, whatever term you use, and then a pair of cutters. So why you would need pliers is there's a number of different reasons. Sometimes there's things on the car that you need to snap on. That's what the pliers are for, perhaps ball cups or E-clips. And then the cutters, obviously, again, if you need to cut parts off of parch trees, or cut zip ties and stuff like that, that's when a pair of cutters comes in handy. Okay, now I'm going to skip over to the other end of the table here. I'm going to talk about some of the hand tools that you need for repairs and maintenance and tuning adjustments. So, like I showed you in this package here, there was a bunch of Allen wrenches in there, and that's primarily the type of hardware that's used on vehicles. It's hex head hardware. There's still some Phillips and very rarely flat blade head screws that are used on cars, but mostly we use hex hardware. That's why they give you these keys to wrench on that hardware, but obviously using the small wrench could be a pain. Don't throw these out, by the way. These box wrenches and these little L wrenches, They actually do come in handy for some odd tasks on the car. I bet if you went to any racetrack and you looked in a pro racer's pit, they would have this little box wrench. This is for the different type of nuts that are used on the car, but always keep these. Don't just toss them out. But let's talk about what type of tools that are going to make your life a lot easier, and that is a good set of hex wrenches. Now this particular set right here, let me give you that up close. This is a multi-tool set. So there are a lot of tools in here that would be great for someone that is going to do RC on a regular basis. Maybe not a racer, but you know, is going to enjoy the hobby quite often. And so it gives you a little bit of everything that you need in here. So it gives you the hex style wrenches. This particular set also gives you some nut drivers, and it has a turnbuckle tool and a flat blade screwdriver and a Phillips blade screwdriver. And then it gives you this handle. And what you could do is you could insert these bits into the handle, and you could use the different variety of tools here. Now, you heard me mention a bunch of different types of bits. So what you're going to need is definitely some hex drivers. Now, most cars nowadays use metric hardware. So the most popular metric driver bits for that would be a 1.5, a 2.0, a 2.5, and a 3.0. And this set gives you that. And there are a few cars out there still, and some vintage cars that use SAE hardware. And that's when you're going to need like an 050 hex driver, a 1/16, a 5/64, and a 3/32. Those are your most common types of hex drivers. And then over on the metric nut side, again, you know, talking about modern cars, they use a 5.5 millimeter nut driver and a 7.0 millimeter nut driver. And just to throw it out there, a glow plug on a nitro car is 8 millimeters. But most of those nitro cars, they do come with one of these style wrenches, and that's your 8 millimeter down there. And then this is a 17 millimeter nut driver for wheel nuts. And then we have a 10 millimeter over here for clutch nuts. And then we have a 1/4 inch on this particular one for lousy vehicles. But anyway, if your car comes with one of these, if your nitro car comes with these, don't toss it. This is a great tool to have that'll last you a long time. Okay, so back to the tool sets here. This one also comes with a turnbuckle tool. A lot of ready-to-run kits, a lot of build-up kits come with turnbuckle tools, so don't toss it. And if you do think you need a turnbuckle tool, maybe check out one of these style of sets. So this is a good all-around set for someone that's, again, just having fun, needs to do basic repairs and stuff like that. Another option is multi-tools such as this one right here. This is from Team Associated, and all the bits are actually found in the bottom of the handle here. So there are a number of bits that come with it, and it's a nice compact tool. Makes it easy to wrench on your car, makes it easy to travel to the track or the park or whatever and work on your stuff there. So there's options. And the other option, if you think you're really going to be serious about RC and you're going to wrench on your stuff a lot, maybe even become a racer, you might want to think about a high quality tool set, such as one of these here. These are dynamite wrenches, and here I have some hex drivers, again, much similar to this right here. And then these are the nut drivers, again, similar to that. So these are kind of dedicated tools. I'll just pop this open, show you what they look like. So as you can see, it's just a nice handle. And then it's got your different style ends. This one here is a 3/8. So this is an SAE type of nut driver. And again, you really just need to check on your particular car, what type of hardware you have before you pick up your wrench set. And these will be a little bit more expensive, you know, and it could be very expensive depending on what your budget is. You know, there are some inexpensive tool sets. There are some really expensive tool sets for hex drivers and nut drivers. And again, it's kind of one of those things where you get what you pay for. You buy the high quality tool set that's very expensive. You buy it once, you buy it right, it'll last you a lifetime. You will need a couple of standard screwdrivers too, a flathead and a Phillips head. I have two here that are from a hobby manufacturer. Kind of a medium-sized blade, medium-sized Phillips bit. You probably have a Phillips or a flat blade screwdriver in your home that would probably work. What would you need a flat blade screwdriver for? Well, it could be anything from you know, tuning a nitro car if you do pick up a nitro car, or you know, popping off a speed controller if it's stuck to the chassis, you want to move it elsewhere. Even popping off E-clips, it could come in useful for that. So there's a bunch of little different types of areas that a flat blade screwdriver is useful for. And then a Phillips screwdriver, obviously, again, you know, for working on screws. A lot of servos still come with Phillips screws to hold the servo horn on, so that's when a Phillips driver would come in handy. So down to the last tool that you should have in your tool set is actually some brushes. I like to tell people to have this in your tool set because you really should keep your vehicle clean. So what I have here are some vehicle detail brushes for real cars. This is a tire brush, but this works great at knocking dirt off your RC car tires or off of suspension arms if you go mudding and stuff like that. And this brush right here is actually a car vent detail brush, but it's got a nice firm bristle to it and does a great job of cleaning off parts. You could of course go to, you know, the local hardware store, pick up some paint brushes to dust off your car, but just have a set of brushes on hand. Clean your machines. All right, I've got two more things that I want to show you, and they're not necessarily tools, but may make your life a little bit easier when you're maintaining your machine. And one of those is like a toolbox or a tool caddy, a fishing box, just to hold all of your tools so you have them on hand nice and easy. This is actually a Dubro caddy. I got this a long time ago. I'm not even sure they still make it, but this actually sits in the back of my car when I go out on photo shoots for the stuff that we do here. This sits in the back of my car with a lot of these tools in it, and I have it on hand just in case something happens. I'm ready to work on the stuff, but it keeps everything nice and organized. So do yourself a favor, get some sort of little box to keep everything organized. The other nice thing to have is a work surface mat. Now, I know a lot of people, when you get into RC, you may not have a workshop like this. Maybe you're working on a coffee table in your living room or the kitchen table or something like that. Have a mat of some sorts down on the counter or down on the table so nothing gets scratched, so you don't spill any oil or greases or anything, because it could get damaged. You know, you could go and scratch something with a tool by accident. So have a work mat. This one here is from Team Losey Racing. Pretty much every manufacturer out there makes a mat similar to this. It's kind of like a yoga mat, so if you just want to go to the store and buy a yoga mat, some people just use a bath towel and lay it down on the counter to work on your stuff, make your life a lot easier, make things cleaner. If something drops, it's less likely to roll off the table if it's on a nice mat. So those are just some of the basic tools, the absolute basic tools. Now there's plenty of more tools out there that would make your RC life easier. There's camber tools and right height tools and even having lights and parts trays and stuff like that. But right now, for this particular video, I'm just talking about the essentials that you'll need to repair or maintain your vehicle. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please take a moment to give it a like, and if you haven't done so yet, hit that subscribe button. If you're getting into RC, you're gonna want to follow this channel.